Okay, I think I'm going to have to edit that out. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last meeting of the week. Today is a very special episode on so many levels because, number one, we are finishing the season. Tomorrow I'm flying. I didn't tell you, but tomorrow I'm flying to Thailand for work. I'm moving my family to our summer residence of 2024. I have a pregnant wife, which is a very good excuse to try to look for a place with a pool and a fresh air. So, but that's not the main why this podcast is important. We are finishing the season. This is a 27th episode. It's been an amazing ride. I met a lot of interesting people, caught up with a lot of good friends, and I am very happy to. I said it before, to put the cherry on top of the cake of this amazing year with Adrian Battisby, Senior Vice President of Interior Design at Wynn Resorts. This is a very new, recent title because I met him when he was in LW. We were talking about that before, 7 years ago in Kota Kinabalu. And now he came today to share his vision, his inspirations, his work, and anything that might pop up during this the time that we decide to talk. Adrian, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Fernando, what a wonderful warm welcome. It's great to be here for the last meeting of the week. What a great title for the pod. I've never been described as a cherry, but you know, I'll take anything these days. But thank you very much.
I think a cherry is perfect. I think a cherry is perfect. You are at the end. You put the color and sweetness. Yeah. No. I'm very interested about your life now because we used to be neighbors. I mean, I think we lived very close in mid-levels.
Yes, we do. Yes.
But now you moved between Monday to Friday. How was this week?
Yes. Well, how was the week? It's been a great week. So, as you mentioned, I've recently transitioned into a new role. I'm very thrilled to be part of the Wynn team, based in Macau, Vice President of Interior Design. Fantastic opportunity working with an amazing team who are just excelling in creative hospitality design. So it's a real thrill. I am a newbie. It's only been 7 days that I've been working with the team. So it's very much a lot of learning and listening and getting to know everybody. But traveling between Hong Kong and Macau, I have the best of both worlds. I can't deny I don't want to be greedy, but I am having the best of a corporate role with a supportive team, with a vision to take luxury hospitality into new and exciting places, and then coming back to Hong Kong and feeling the vibrancy, exploring the dining scene here, and really appreciating how special this city is. It really is a knockout. So yeah, it's good to be here and good to be chatting with you in Hong Kong.
No, thank you very much. What it is actually true. What you mentioned about Hong Kong. When you make the ride back from the airport, or in your case, do you take the ferry?
Ferry and all forms of transport. I haven't yet had the pleasure of taking the helicopter. Maybe somebody will like to take me on a helicopter ride. No puns there. I've taken the ferry. It's great. You know, it's great. It's comfortable, and I believe there is an onboard service of beverages, so that keeps me amused in the evening.
Ah, very nice. That's interesting. That's an incentive. So you arrived to the city already with on let's say on par with the vibe.
Ready to go.
It is 2 weeks ago. I had a friend visiting from Singapore. She used to live here, and she said that when you get to the city, it's like the streets are vibing. They're vibrating. Vibing is the Gen Z way to say vibrating, you know?
But I think that has always been Hong Kong. We'll touch on some of my legacy, but as a child, my family was based here. My father was in the British Armed Forces. So in the 1970s, my parents were here, and we've got some great photographs and cine films of them also having a really fun time here. So yes, it comes full circle. Yes, I think I was drawn back to Asia.
This I didn't know because one of the things that I get to do when I'm preparing for an interview is I get to spy on people's LinkedIn profiles. But then, of course, that only goes back so much, and there is in your let's say work career, there is a great protagonism of hospitality, and your work life is very well defined. But of course, the early years are very interesting. And I thought that going from the UK to Dubai, from Dubai to Hong Kong, it appeared to be just a capricious thing of life that you arrived to this place. So you were here In the 70s.
I owe a huge debt of gratitude and inspiration to my mother and father, Norma and Jeff. They are absolute adventurists, enthusiasts. They have a thirst for life, and that's definitely impacted my brother and I. We're both very successful in our careers and energetic and curious, and I think we've learned that from Norma and Jeff. They also, in the pandemic, were traveling around Europe in a camper van.
Wow.
And they were completely determined to have a good time, cross borders, obviously safely and respecting all the quarantine rules. And they were just having the best time of their life. And they still travel around the world. They travel through England and Scotland extensively, travel through Germany and Sweden and Italy and Spain, and they are always seeking newness and fun in life, and it's infectious. We celebrated my father's 80th birthday this year, so good health to him, and I hope it's something that we can carry on in our family.
Congratulations to him. It's very important to have that energy. It changes the way you live and the way you approach difficulties, because problems have a different flavor if you look at them as adventures. And I guess that, coming to Hong Kong in the 70s was not as easy as it is coming to Hong Kong now or going anywhere now. So you need to have a different level of stamina to be able to achieve that.
And well, I was quite young at the time. I think we've got some photographs. I think I have some shocking outfits on. I think I have an orange corduroy dungaree set. Please don't judge me. It was the fashion. Lots of flares. My parents had big kind of collars and patterned shirts. It was the 70s. But we were babies, and apparently my mum said it was really hard with a pram. We had to, a proper pram on the streets of Hong Kong, and they were up in mid-levels on Bonham. Mm-hmm. I think it's 88 Bat Sap Bat, I think. Excuse my Cantonese. 88 Bonham. I think it's still military accommodation. It's painted in the same green paint that it was painted in the 1970s. My parents have checked it out. And trying to wheel around a baby on the streets in Hong Kong is no fun. I mean, that's why everybody carries a child here in a sling or something.
Yeah,
it's just terrible. I'm sure you have the same thing, having a little toddler.
Yes, no, it's terrible. Totally. What do you remember from that time?
I was very young. I think I have more of a romanticized view of what it was like. I was innocent. My parents have told me, how exciting Hong Kong was, how Asia was so, it was a time in the 70s and then later in the 80s, how it just boomed and came alive. So they were on the edge of that. So Hong Kong for a while, and then very beautiful Brunei. Outside of Miri, Miri's in Malaysia, so at the border with Malaysia is where you have some of the oil fields, and the British Army base was there, and the Shell Corporation was there. And so the army was down there, and we were literally living in the jungle. We used to go butterfly catching I know it's very unethical now, but butterfly catching, we never caught any, obviously, because the butterflies would fly too quickly, or try and sort of stalk a monkey, obviously all innocent fun, but there was no television, there was no radio. You had to dial, you had to request an international call in advance and book a time. So we were very remote, but you made your own fun and had a good time. And looking back at some of the photographs and movie footage, that lifestyle has now gone, because we're now, it's a different era.
Yeah.
That was 40 some years ago, and that's gone. That's all gone. All that innocence is gone. Now we're all on our smartphones and our satellite television and our air-conditioned cars. But
yes. Now, if you take a week without your phone, or let's say even without replying to your messaging apps, it feels like, being in the Amazon forest. Where really, when you go to the mountain, I used to do this. One of my best friends, he had a cabin in one natural park in Spain, and you couldn't get there by car, so you had to leave the car, walk up an hour and a half, and there you had this cabin in the middle of the forest. No electricity, so it was just fire and a little stream of water next to it. What was striking when the first time I went was the dimension of time, how long a day was.
You have more time. I think technology, it's fantastic technology, so let's not deny that. But we just absorb.
Yep.
And when you're not using your technology, you're much more present and you sense everything.
Yes. I look. I think we live in a moment of adaptation. There is a line of thought that imagines the world as ever more technological. I think now we are in an exaggerating phase. Eventually, we'll come down to terms with the fact that we need to have an off switch from all of this bubble of communication and information, and probably the next generation, people that
they'll look back on us with thinking, what on earth were they doing?
What were these guys doing? Yeah, we'll be like. Anyway, I want to touch on the communication part of this, but I want to get ahead of myself because let's say circling back to your early age and let's say to your career. So you go back from Asia, you go back to the UK. I imagine that was a shock, and then you live there for a bit.
Funny enough, to talk about technology and the lack of technology, I graduated in 1995 from Chelsea College of Art, which was then part of something called the London Institute. It's now been rebranded as University of the Arts London, an excellent institution. And I started working. I graduated in June, and I started working, I think, in very early July for Design LSM, who are one of the leading restaurant, bar, and leisure design companies. They're based in Brighton, which is a beautiful part of the world. And it was drawing boards. It was printing drawings on the die line machine with the ammonia. I don't think they make that anymore now. Printing drawings, folding them, taking them to the post office, buying the sandwiches for the bosses, answering the phone, revising drawings by hand and scratching them out. They nicknamed me Mothballs in the office because I made so many holes in the drawings. I was so bad at scratching out, because you had to revise everything, scratch it out, and then draw again. And I had my drawings were all covered in holes. Anyway, Mothballs was my name. And then I just think now, gosh, that's all gone. We don't do that anymore. It's all now just a click of a button, send an email, work on AutoCAD. Everything was it was manual, but it was also an art form.
Yep.
I learned to draft, set up the drawing. You'd look at your empty piece of paper. You'd begin to set out where the drawing would be, where the detail would be, how you'd leave space for your annotation. So everything was visual. Everything was, you looked at it and you saw the composition on the page. And I think at one point I was pumping out like 5 A1 drawings a day. But then design was, I think it was simpler as well. Schemes were simpler. Now everything is much more complex, layered. We have a lot more technology. And, it makes for a better space. But yeah, it was a fun time back then.
Do you still, when you are immersed in a project, do you still have that arty feeling about your profession?
I've come full circle from being the junior designer to now being a vice president. I have encompassed all kinds of technology, from CAD to BIM and Revit, to 3D modeling, to AI, to virtual reality, but it still comes back to drawing. For me, and how I communicate my ideas, it has to be the act of mark making on, it could be a paper, it could be anything, but beginning to see the journey through movement. I like to describe it as designers choreographing a movie that the guest or the audience lives in. So you start with a blank piece of paper and you think, okay, so how would, if I'm arriving at a hotel, the door of my car or bus opens and I step out, what do I see? What do I smell? Where is the light coming from? What am I looking at? And you imagine it's exactly like an art director would direct a movie, and you choreograph these spaces. So that becomes a line, a fluid line, and maybe you go into a courtyard and you turn right and you see something else and your view is interrupted or it's focused. Then from that drawing, you begin to form how those spaces interconnect and what you want them to do. And then you go into more detail about how the furniture would be laid out and how the functionality would work. So for me, it's very much an artistic process. You dream about the space and imagine yourself walking in it. And then you craft the spaces around it. Well, speechless.
That's the most beautiful way to describe it.
And then we have to change it, and then we can't afford it, and then we can't build it.
No. But let's say it's very important to when you are an accomplished person as you are, to keep that romanticism and that freshness that you have when you explain it to me. I was like, I mean,
Were you there?
I came back to life and I started talking because this is my podcast and I need to continue the conversation. But if I could have chosen my options, I would say I'm going to stay silent for 1 minute and just let it soak in. A question that I had for you was whether hospitality chose you or you chose hospitality. And I think that now you partially replied to me, but I want to do it explicitly, because you started very early in LSM, and then you specialized, I think, in this part of interior design.
Two things. I'll recap. I'll circle back to some of my earlier life. So, having lived in Asia with my family, my father returned to the UK to continue his career in the army, and my parents decided to buy a restaurant. My mother retrained as a chef, and she went to the Cordon Bleu School of Cookery in France. My dad took up a wine course and was trained in wine appreciation, and my parents opened a French restaurant. We lived above it. It was very humble. We had a small little apartment on top of the restaurant, and on busy nights, you'd get the call, "Get down here, come and wash up, we're busy." It was kind of a baptism of being immersed in the world of entertaining people in a restaurant environment. And if we think about dining, it's one of life's pleasures. Yep. Work, sometimes, maybe exercise, but we love to dine. It's nourishment, it's social, and it's a pleasure. So to be in an environment where you're working around people who are enjoying themselves whilst, they're paying for something or they're, engaging you, was really lovely. And you get to meet people and you understand how joyous it is to be with other people in this environment, in hospitality. So that was something that had always been kind of in my DNA, as you say. And then at design school, we looked at what we wanted to do. And I was very taken in theatre and theatre design, and also in sort of, I didn't know about hospitality design at school, at art school, and they didn't teach you that. They could have taught you the skills that you needed to learn. I didn't want to become a designer who designed spaces that we didn't feel joyous in. So I think I was drawn to the theatricality, the drama, the happiness, the laughter, the sense of occasion that you get in hospitality. So it seemed like a natural progression.
Yes.
Wow, I've made you silent. I should come more often.
Yes.
Should I interview you?
No. It makes me think. I'm gonna edit out all of my silences. I never stay silent, but I like to think and I like to soak in. One of the I want to take inspiration from the description that you use for yourself on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I admire people. That makes me admire you is that on one side you have this pure artistic and passionate origin, and then on the other side you need to make things happen. You said you write blurring the lines between creativity and profitability, and that's yes. and I think that's amazing, because there are two schools of thought. Some people, they decide, I'm going to be the artistic type of designer, and then I'm going to have a lot of problems and headaches down the line. And then the other ones are the more, if we call Sovietic let's say approach, which is functionality, project, deadlines, material, a little bit like Japanese hotels in a sense, no? Striking a balance, an equilibrium between these two is what makes people, I think, yes. be special. Now, how do you have the secret sauce for success?
I don't have the secret sauce. Good design is good business. Good design should never be noticed. Bad design you notice. Design is a language that allows us to live our life and improve our life to a higher state. It's very important that you mentioned, so Tigos, you mentioned there about the designer versus the sort of the tough dude, and that also shows the richness and breadth and depth of the design industry. You can be a beautiful designer who's unconcerned with the purpose of my object. It's the process of design. I am thinking, I am creative, sort of therefore I am. Or you have the end user who just wants to get in and to a hotel room and have a shower and switch on a light and make it quiet. That just shows the breadth of the business, which is so interesting, and you can drop into any one of those sort of segments and go just explore further. It's very important that we put a value on how we add value to a business proposal. It's very important that design is not considered as something frivolous. Design makes our life smoother and easier. We wouldn't be flying in airplanes or going to the moon if we didn't have designers. Also, it's a status. Design shows that you're thinking beyond the mere existence. You're creating, you're inspiring. But to add value to a business proposition through design is so important, and to understand how you do it, why you do it, and what it benefits the business is essential. And that is the key to being a hospitality designer. We are designing for a brief, for a client, for a purpose, and our design will create an environment where people just want to go back. So it's very focused. I wouldn't want to say seductive. Maybe it is seductive, but it's a space. You walk into a space and you just feel, wow. And why and how do we do that? And that's the science, that's the experience, that's working with a team to make these spaces come alive. And you will know now, if you think about it, you're walking into a space, you go like, oh, this is a bit kind of cold and don't really feel like I want to be here, or I really want to be here, this is so great. And it's psychological, and we're looking at the emotional connection to the environment, and how as designers we can enhance that.
Can we apply the 20-80 rule as something universal for hospitality? Meaning, if there are, let's say, 20% of the key components of a project that make the 80% of that perception of the customer that you are describing, and if so, where is that 20%?
That's I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer it succinctly, but in hospitality, it's a human interaction with the space. And it also requires other humans to interact. So I would say the downfall can sometimes be our own human interaction. You could create a beautiful space that nobody walks into and just looks amazing. But in hospitality, we use the spaces. We sit down at a restaurant table, or we sleep in a bed, or we use, the bathing facilities. So we're interacting with the building, not just like an art piece, so sometimes you can be let down by the humans interacting. Is there an 80-20 rule? Surprise at every turn. Something that will always, create a yearning to discover more. So maybe a sense of discovery in a space.
So you replied to a question I was going to ask right after, which is, I imagine there are 1,000 types of customers. Some people go to a hotel because they want to, and because they have to do it, and they want to feel surprised, nourished by but at home. They want to feel like they're close to what they're used to. Some others, they just want to have the experience. I want to ask you personally, because there are many types of category of clients. What do you prefer when you go somewhere? Do you prefer the familiarity or being wowed? And I can tell you my experience as well.
That's a tough question. As a designer, as a design professional, I understand the brand proposition, or the value proposition of the brand to the consumer, and I pick it up immediately. I know I'm going in. If I step into a space, I know. For example, there's a fabulous hotel in Tokyo called Trunk Hotels. Very minimally designed, but it's a really buzzy, vibrant hotel. Very cool, very well thought out, and their purpose on that is to be more of a connector in the community. Or you have somewhere closer to home, say the Grand Dam of hospitality, the Peninsula. You go in there and it is just wonderful. You're stepping into history, you're walking through history. So do I not like, what do I like?
This is this personal opinion.
Well, it's working and living in a world where enhancing the senses and crafting experiences, sometimes for me, and sometimes simpler is better.
Yep.
but also I'm always in awe of heritage buildings that have a story to tell, because your imagination can wander and wonder what happened. I'm also in awe of new modern luxury, how designers are crafting contemporary luxury that is just is really quite beautiful.
Yes, I tend to agree with you. There is some charm to the heritage buildings, especially when you have the modern comfort with the old stories. Some people don't enjoy this. I have some clients. I used to have some clients. They're not my clients anymore, but they became friends. That, for example, when they travel to Europe, they're from Hong Kong. They never go to old hotels because they think there are spirits around. So they never go to all hotels.
It's funny you say that. I'll just remember my time in Dubai. I was in Dubai for 10 years, and speaking to some of my Emirati friends, their attitude was, and this is not I'm speaking for all of them, that something new was really unique and original because somebody had made it and it was new. Old, we've seen it. So that was a really interesting viewpoint, that to appreciate and have an appetite for newness versus always celebrating what's gone in the past. And let's not forget, those old buildings are lovely now because they've got air conditioning and lighting and sanitization. They probably weren't the best a long time ago when there was no electricity, or it was all cold and drafty and then those kind of things.
No, 100%. Another thing that you write on your LinkedIn is that you inspiring creative leaders of tomorrow.
Yes.
My question is, who inspired you, Adrian?
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you've asked that question. I have written a few names down to remember. And on my journey from designer to leader, it was an organic process, so it felt right. I did seek out advice. I had some coaching sessions with a really inspirational coach, Gina. She runs a company called Catalyst Consulting, and she was instrumental in helping me see what I could be as a leader and how to create or have followers. So a boss can be a boss. You can tell people what to do, and that's an instruction. If you have followers and you have a team that follow you and want to be with you, that's a very different attitude. So I tapped into that and realized that that is the next step for me. So whilst I am an accomplished designer, it's about leading, and that leading comes to sharing, to educating, to encouraging growth, allowing space for designers to grow into themselves. And some of the other learnings and people that I listen to on my podcasts and books that I've read have been Viv Grosskop. She is a comedian and an author, and she has a couple of podcasts. Please look into them. One is called How to Own the Room, and this is a podcast that talks about business situations, how to present yourself in person when you're nervous, what to do. It's kind of like some tips on what to do, but through the messages, be yourself and just share. So How to Own the Room is great. Her second book has been Lift as You Climb. And that's about, in the industry, as you grow, bring people with you, share the knowledge. And quite a controversial subject, because sometimes people say, well, why should you have to lift people? They should, do it on their own. But that's a really interesting topic. And her recent book is called Happy High Status. It's how to achieve a sense of completeness and happiness and survive in the business world, knowing that everything will come at you, come from top, from bottom, but how to remain calm, happy. And the word high status is about where you feel you are comfortable and confident to know that you're learning. You don't know enough. You ask questions, you are curious, and you rely on people around you to do good teamwork. So you're not just thinking, hey, I know all the answers.
Yes.
You're in control and you're willing to learn. And it's a beautiful book. So please read that. And more sort of granular would be Arthur Gensler, who founded the international design firm Gensler. His book, 50 Years of Hard Lessons Learned in Building a World-Class Professional Services Firm. So I have that by my desk, and sometimes when I'm a bit lost, I flick through it and it's a great sort of aid memoir to get you back on track. So some interesting learnings there.
Thank you very much. I you would not believe, but I read 80% of books that people speak to me about because I'm very curious, and that was extremely valuable for me. I think from what you were saying, and I aspire to be a leader of tomorrow.
Sorry to cut you off. I didn't
Yes.
quite finish the question. So how do I inspire? So it's not about me anymore. It's about how I can help.
Yes.
The joy of giving your knowledge and sharing your knowledge and seeing the spark of inspiration and sort of the aha moment in a colleague is fantastic. So my journey has been to create a team of people who are motivated and inspired and come to work, and they just want to, be unique and amazing and fabulous and all of those wonderful adjectives, and have them also share. So I want to pass on my enthusiasm for design and my love for what we do, and how we create magic. We create spaces that people live in and just love it. It's the dream job. It's not easy all the time, but it's a dream job. And if I can give some of that enthusiasm to people that I interact with, I hope they can leave the feeling also equally inspired.
I think it is very important to transmit this. It keeps you actually young. I think the secret of great leaders is that they have managed not to lose sight of who they really are, despite the growth in different stages of life. Because once you get to being a little boss, it's very easy to buy into
they do say power corrupts.
Yes.
So be careful. That's another thing. Be careful of how you take that responsibility and what you do with that responsibility.
Exactly. So I think it's very inspiring. I had a meeting yesterday with with one staff of M. Moser, and Moira Moser is she's 80. I don't think it's polite to say a woman's age anyway, a lady's age, but she's experienced, to say the least.
An experienced lady.
Every morning, Moira replies to emails from the global teams all around the world. And I think when someone has that young and humble approach of saying, I'm going to reply personally to the emails, I think that is, let's say, one small sample of the attitude of a great leader. And it's the only way to grow, because at the end of the day, growing by oneself, it's impossible if the ones underneath don't push you up.
You have to.
Only some people, I think, fear that the ones below will substitute them. But instead, you just need to let yourself go and get pushed by the wind, and life takes you to where you need to be.
And maybe it's the universe. If there is an uncomfortable situation at work, maybe it's the universe sort of giving you a signal that maybe there's another opportunity for you to pursue. So
yes,
difficult at the time, I'm sure, if that were going to happen. But hopefully, I hope that we're all more generous out there with our business practices.
No, I'm sure. Look,
we digressed. I think we haven't discussed any of the topics that we were supposed to be
discussing. No, we're going. You can cut me anytime. I wanted to ask you one thing.
Yes.
The inspiration is fundamental, but nowadays, if we want to be a little bit more pragmatic when we talk to these young designers, maybe hopefully some of your younger colleagues will listen to this podcast. Maybe some interior designers students or aspiring interior designers will learn something from this podcast. Now, if we want to tell them what type of a skill set do you need to be successful? Now we live in a more complex world than before. Now it's about design, yes, but it's also about networking and being able to do business development for the company, for yourself. It's also a lot about communication, and this is something that we were talking about before.
Yes.
If you could create a Frankenstein of a young interior designer, how do we build him or her?
Gosh, I think there's 5 answers in that question. Please come back to the communication, because I would like to share some of my experiences about social media, particularly from the pandemic, and as a result of that, and I think globally we can all agree that social media is something that's very important to us, and how my journey has been with that. If you talk about designers, you can say I'm old school. I don't know. I was taught in a different way. I appreciate the way that technology allows us to be to realize design immediately, such as AI. How we can prompt the AI to create images for us. Does that mean designers are now prompt engineers, or are they designers? So I think there will be a prompt engineer coming up as a job description soon. Somebody who can harness AI and focus it as a tool. So that. I think sites like Pinterest and other image-based sites or online resources have made the sourcing of images and the sharing of images very immediate. I do worry that we sometimes miss why we are looking at the image. We tend to be so image-focused. It's almost like we've rushed to the end of the race and we haven't enjoyed the journey to get there. So sometimes I see it as younger designers looking at images and just thinking that's the design. No, that's another person's design that you're referencing. What is your design?
Yeah.
How do you translate those images into three-dimensional space? And I go back to the dreaming part and crafting the space. I ask all my designers when they join the team, I ask them to step aside from the computer. I ask them to get back to drawing with the hand and allowing the mind to inform what they want to do and how they would like to craft the space. Yes, show me an image of a beautiful stone wall and show me some furniture options, but that isn't the scheme. That's not the end of the scheme. That's a starting point. What do you have to say? What's your point of view in design, and how do you want to tell that story of how the guest would experience that space?
It's I imagine that if that is fundamental, if then you want to communicate your job perfectly, because if you're let's say just referencing other people's works, then at the end of the day, when you need to tell the story and sell the dream, from a salesman point of view, it's not as easy.
We do have to work hard. I mean, as I said, we're creating magic, but we're creating something that's intangible, and we're going to make it tangible. So it is a lot of work, but that's the joy of design, and that's where we have our imagination and our minds to create these spaces, and we work with people who help us bring those spaces alive. So it's possible. It's just it's a lot of energy and effort and heart that you put into your design.
Yes, I agree completely. May it be that nowadays, with the necessity of being always relevant online, the time that we used to dedicate to a slower work process, now that time has shrinked, because we need to dedicate a lot of time to communicate,
3
to be able to tell the
seconds.
story.
Excuse me. 3 seconds on Instagram. That's the capture. People will scroll. It's been, obviously you can see the statistics, 3 seconds, and they're on to the next image. So if you don't have them immediately, you've lost them. But that would then go back to what I mentioned with Gina and Catalyst Consulting. She was an executive coach. She is an executive coach. She does leadership training. She taught me how to speak to the viewer or speak to the receiver, the people in the meeting, in a 3-second soundbite. And she said, I know you're going to complain that you want to talk about the design and how I was inspired, and I'm thinking about the intersection of East meets West and all of that. No, you've got to grab them. You've got to have a hook. You've got to have a hook. You've got to, and what's one of her famous phrases? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. So you say, you go into a meeting, I am here to talk about this. This is what I'm going to say, and this is how it's going to happen, and this is what I want you to do. Right, let's start the presentation. And you get the audience engaged, and how you ask them to participate. So that was really interesting. But that would then go on to social media. It's such a immediate interaction that the minute you're on social media, you've got to just say something that people want to hear. And we're all looking to learn something and be entertained. So use that to your advantage.
Yes. How do you use it?
It's very. I'm also working with Ines. She is a fantastic social media content creator, and she's also guided me in how to use social media to my advantage. She was also excellent in the pandemic in coaching myself and other colleagues how to be compelling online. which was a new medium for us all to learn how to present on the television or on the video call. Talk to camera. People interact with a face on social media. So much of social media is watching somebody's experience from their point of view, sort of from their own eyes. If you talk to camera, you immediately pick up engagement, and people love watching other people. So we're social creatures, aren't we? So.
Was it? I mean, you've been prolific recently. I've been following you for a few months. Was it difficult for you to overcome this?
Very. So Ines is an actress or an actor, and she's worked in media for a long time. So her advice was golden. She said, people do not see what you are feeling.
Yep.
So nobody really cares what you're wearing. Nobody really cares, how your hair is, because it's such a fast interaction on social media. So you just need to get them and or get the engagement. And she was fantastic. Yeah, I was very nervous. I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to look lumpy or dumpy, or how's this? And oh, how am I going to sit? Nobody even notices.
I know.
Nobody even notices. And then once you relax into it, it just becomes much more natural. At LW, we had a series of design process reels and videos for LW social media, and Ines was coaching all of the team, and to begin with they were all so scared. Oh, what if I make a mistake, and oh, how will I look? And then she was great. She showed them the footage, and they were like, oh, now I see what you mean. Nobody's even looking at what's on my desk, and they just want to see the movement and what you're doing. And then she said, well, edit out the bad and make it all look great. So yeah, really good. So yeah, really, really good learning. And I think we should all be media trained, or have, I should say anybody who wants to be in the public eye of any description or in public speaking, just take a moment to learn a few tips. Listen to Viv Grosskop, reach out to Ines or Gina, and let them guide you, because once you've got your toolkit of what to do, it's fantastic.
Yes, it's like having a superpower. It's still for me, for example, doing this podcast, we're talking to each other. This is a conversation. It's fine. We are relaxed. When I switch and I talk to them, it still feels like a slight effort. So it's something that it needs work. And even I would say, I want to, let's say, send a message out there as an exercise, but I want to say, if you feel like you're not made for it, it's because you haven't practiced enough. Just give yourself more time.
Yes.
Adrian, do you agree?
Yes, I do. Oh, well, yes, absolutely. Yes. We haven't touched on anything. Are we wandering?
No. I believe we touched. What have we left? I have the big bomb for the end. What else did we not touch? I think you're doing fine. I do remember that when we talked details about this podcast, your change or had been very recent to Wynn Resorts, but you made a special mention that you wanted LW to be mentioned, recognized, and given credit for a lot of your career and a lot of projects that you've done, and one of them that we're gonna touch later.
Yes.
So I wanted to, let's say, do a forced intro of this, because I don't want you to leave the podcast without, because I know you care about mentioning these people and
absolutely, and thank you for that. 13 and a half years with LW, from 2011 in Dubai now to Hong Kong. It's been a fantastic journey, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if it had not been for my time with LW. And my gratitude goes out to the CEO and founder, Jesper Godsk, and all the interior design partners in the business. What a fantastic company. What a fantastic company. Pioneer in contemporary hospitality design, and has given me a platform to grow and to be the person I am now, and also to create some of the most beautiful work, I think, that I've seen in the market. So that loops us into one of the projects, transformative projects, the Waldorf Astoria in Kuala Lumpur, which is something I am very sad to have to I won't be able to work on it to the completion as I've moved on from the company, but it's something that I am watching from a distance and will be cheering on from afar. So.
I did ask you, Adrian, can you please bring a project that you feel has been important for you? Transformative was the word we used. Why did you choose this one?
This project is, for me, has a lot of my personal soul in it. It's something I have naturally found an affinity with. The client is probably one of the most inspirational individuals I've had the opportunity to meet. Is involved with curating and collating one of the world's most prestigious collections of Islamic art. And that to me has been such a joy to participate and have the honor to experience. So please, if anybody's going to Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur, please visit the Museum of Islamic Arts Malaysia. It's an outstanding collection, very inspirational. And that comes also from my time in Dubai. I moved out to Dubai in 2005. Very naive, I think, at the time. I thought I knew it all, as we all do. I was in my 30s. And I was immersed in a culture that seemed so foreign. You know, it's known as probably one of the most conservative parts of the world. Arabia and the Middle East, it's also one of the most romanticized parts of the world. We have these dreams of exotic, spices and colors and unusual rituals. And it was, for me, it was a very interesting learning opportunity. I had the chance to travel to Iran and visit Isfahan and Shiraz and Yazd in the north and experience ancient, going back to heritage, ancient civilizations that have informed how we live our life today. And the learnings of these civilizations, which unfortunately are not as easy, as accessible as they should be. Please go if you have the opportunity. Maybe not now is not the right time to go and visit. I do hope those civilizations remain intact, to see how through human ingenuity, harsh landscapes were overcome through design and engineering, and how they could cultivate pomegranates and walnuts and have flowers and nightingales in the middle of an arid plateau. It's amazing. So I learned a lot about, or I chose to learn a lot about, how the Islamic culture has influenced design, architecture, science, mathematics, astrology, things that we take for granted all come from this part of the world that now we don't really sort of reference that much in terms of our, common and collective understandings. That then looped back to this, the Waldorf. The client selected LW. We were pitching, selected LW as we were able to talk about how we could bring Islamic art and architecture to the modern world in a way that was meaningful, had an intellectual purpose, but was also very beautiful and very modern. Mm-hmm. So that was something that I'm very proud of, that we could. And then also taking the Waldorf brand, which Hilton have done a fantastic job of taking a legacy brand. We all know the Waldorf Astoria in New York. We all know that it's the iconic hotel there. And taking that brand and making it meaningful for tomorrow's generation, so our next generation of luxury consumers. It's always important to have one foot in the past and always looking future, because to the future, we always take our past with us, and how we celebrate that, mm-hmm. and how that Waldorf name becomes hospitality, and it becomes contemporary, and it's still luxurious. And in this particular project in KL, we have a touch of beautiful Islamic patterning. One of the key points of the Waldorf is the Waldorf clock. And it was, for those that know, or for those that don't know, it was a clock that was given for the World Fair in New York, I think I may get my dates wrong now, in sort of like 1870 or something, so please forgive me if I've got those dates wrong. And it was given by England at the time, the United Kingdom, to the States as a symbol of the old world respecting the new world, because at the time America was up and coming and it was all new. And the Waldorf clock sits in the center, and it celebrates old and new coming together. So I do love that. And and it's something that every Waldorf has. They have a clock that represents and has a sense of place of each location. And in the Kuala Lumpur project, our client asked if we could reference something from the Islamic scholars, which is called an astrolabe. And the astrolabe was a device that was created by the Islamic scholars in the 17th century. And it was a measuring device. And it's how they discovered the Earth was round and that we rotate around the sun.
Mhm.
And they learnt how to calculate distances and time. And it's a wonderful device. It's a circular plate, and it has a series of markings on it, and you use the stars, and you can calculate distances. So we've created I should say the team, created a fabulous modern Waldorf clock that embraces the idea of the astrolabe and timekeeping, so old and new, in this Waldorf project in KL, and it's really such a beautiful moment.
It is a beautiful, deeply thought motive. Do you think that potential customers, imagine me, I go to the hotel, do you think that they perceive all of this research behind? Because to be frank, I am not very familiar with the Waldorf hotels, but do they make an effort in explaining this heritage to the clients?
Yes, they do. Excuse me. Yes, they do. So 3 or 4 things in the Waldorf that are key to each Waldorf, and that becomes part of the brand DNA, and then that's explained to the guests. And the Waldorf clock is also positioned in a very sort of visual focus, or a very obvious place in the hotel lobby, so you see it.
Yep.
And then, of course, people go, wow, what is that? And then, of course, the host will say, oh, this is our Waldorf clock. It's iconic. It celebrates old and new, and etc. So it's very much a talking point.
No, it's beautiful, and now I understand why you chose this project. Thank you for bringing it in.
It should be open soon. We're the team are on site. They're building. We've got our mock-up room. They're on site. Hopefully, summer next year.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I think my company will have to pay for a couple of nights there, so I just experience what you just said, because it's I think it's important for people in the industry across all professions and roles to be educated and to understand why people do things. So we talk about one project that you done that was transformative for you in the past.
Yes.
And now you are embarking into a new chapter. Very exciting. I don't know how much you can tell us from that.
It's new days. It's very early days. It's a thrilling role. It's definitely it's a gear change. It's going from the consultant side to ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So my brief is different. It's a larger team. It's a larger responsibility. But I'm very excited to take on board the challenges, and perhaps in another episode I can be the next cherry on the top, and we can talk about my successes.
Adrian, you can come here anytime you want.
Thank you.
My doors are always open. Is there any dream project that you would like to do in this next chapter?
Perhaps not. I can't say. It's too early to say with my current role, but I've always had a dream to design my own house.
Okay.
And of course, it's impossible because I keep changing my mind. A dream to design my house, but here in Asia, I think would be amazing.
Here in Asia?
Yes.
Where in Asia?
To be confirmed. To be
confirmed.
Yes, I think it's a beautiful part of the world.
All right, Adrian, I think whenever you decide, I propose that you come back and we have a new conversation.
Sure.
With in which you update us about how you're gonna make this dream come true.
Yes.
In the meantime, I have to say you made me have such an amazing time. My intuition was right. You were an amazing ending for this season.
Great.
I really super happy. I hope we touched a lot of the things that you cared about. If not, I always say at the end of the episode, this was about you, not about me. So say goodbye, say hello, goodbye, Mama, I love you, whatever you want.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking the time, and it's been great to be here on the last meeting of the week.
The last meeting of the week and of this season. Guys, we are recording on a Saturday morning on a drilling pause from the job site next to us. but it's going to be aired on a Friday. So have a happy weekend.
Yes.
Enjoy your family, your friends. Follow your passion. It's very important. I think we touch a lot of very important things for design, and for life as well.
Yes.
So thank you, Adrian. Thank you, everyone. Be happy.
you.
Stay well. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
All right.
Great. Thank you. That was amazing. That was fantastic. Instigate more conversation. You were there.